there is that kind of phrase that you just look at, you think, yeah, we've got to break that down. I think I thought it was full of men in boiler suits and PPE, just getting down and dirty. So younger people these days are naturally going into engineering, but none of them are generally thinking that could transfer into ports. We learn from them at the same time, being wonderful young people with amazing ideas. Then when you start looking at kind of personal development, management, leadership, it's not obvious. There doesn't seem to be a lot out there, and there may be.
Welcome to another episode of Women in Ports. I'm really excited to be in conversation with Deanne Shallcross from Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners today. So Deanne is the CEO of Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners. So welcome, Deanne.
Thank you.
So really excited to have you having a conversation with me because you started your journey quite early, quite recently in port terms, should I say. And we met at a conference hosted by the British Ports Association. So that was really fun.
Yeah.
And so ever since that time, I've just loved your energy. So I'm so excited you're going to be here today. I think it's so important to have you on board today. Being a CEO of a port, especially when there's so few, your voice is so important, especially inspiring younger women and men, to be honest. I think, to inspire both, to younger people, to say that, if you can do it, they can do it, It'd be really good for the audience to know a little bit about your journey of how you became the CEO. And also, you're not from the ports industry, are you?
No. No, it was absolutely by happy accident, really, I suppose, in many ways. So I've been CEO for just under 2 years, just coming up to 2 years now. I was actually 27 years a journalist. Local journalism, started out in South Cumbria, moved away for a little while down south, and then moved back up to Cumbria and finished off as editor of 2 local newspapers. And then kind of the writing was on the wall a bit for editors, and I was at the stage where I'd done a lot within my career but was still felt that I was still young enough to be employable by somebody else. I still had a lot of years ahead of me. So as many journalists do, I then went into marketing and PR. So I got sucked into supporting local theatre. And I was approached at the time and I was looking for a job and they said, come and be our marketing and PR guru. And I said, well, what on earth do I know about marketing a theatre? And they said, well, you're a storyteller and that's ultimately what the theatre needs. And I was also a performer. I was a singer and a musician. So it was kind of the whole thing felt a natural fit. So I worked there for about 5 years and then got through COVID, a very, very challenging time for the theatre, for the arts and culture industry in general. And during that time, the then director decided to step down. Had been spending a lot of years travelling, a big commute. I think having spent time at home through COVID, realised that actually he loved being back at home again. So that was the time for him to retire. And the board at the time then approached me and asked me to step up. And again, I said, what on earth do I know about leading a theatre? And they said, yeah, but you've managed people, you've managed budgets, you've been in leadership roles, you've gone through change management. And no disrespect, but we're a theatre in COVID. We've got no audience, no money. We don't know what the future holds. Yeah. We're going to struggle to recruit anybody from outside. You are literally our only hope. So that's how that happened. Yeah. So I ended up doing the CEO role for just over 2 years. During that time, we collaborated with Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners around a family festival. And we were receiving Arts Council funding. And one of the things we really wanted to do was broaden our reach, support more diverse audiences, support underserved communities. We have a lot of really challenged communities in the area, a very high percentage of those that kind of live below the breadline, basically, for want of a better phrase. And we really wanted to reach those people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of under-engagement in the arts, and it's not because people don't want to, it's because often they can't.
Yeah.
So it was, how do we get out there? And the Harbour Commissioners had this amazing harbour. It was a great stage. And we took this free family festival down there. So during that time, I got to know the Harbour Commissioners, and I hadn't really been that aware of them at all. And not long after that festival was agreed and started being developed, they were looking for board members. And one of the things they were looking for was people with marketing skills. And like I say, it was the whole thing about being a performer, doing the marketing, the PR, the storytelling, having been involved with them around presenting the festivals. I'm also a water sports enthusiast. I love kayaking. I'm a sailor. Again, it was a natural fit. So I applied to be on the board and was given a position. So I was doing that as just a volunteer commissioner, basically, and really got to know it and fall in love with the organisation. And then the then CEO moved on for another opportunity. And I didn't apply for the job. I just didn't see myself in that role. I was quite happy just being a volunteer commissioner. And then the chair of the board just randomly rang me up one day and said, "You didn't apply for the job." I went, no, I didn't. And she said, "Well, why not?" I said, "Well," and no, I said, "She." It's a female chair, which is fantastic. Yeah. And I said, "No, I didn't." Well, basically, I know too much about the organisation. And also, I just don't see myself in that role, and I wasn't looking to leave the theatre. Yeah. And she said, "Yeah, but we absolutely do see you in that role and we think you're a perfect fit." And they basically wore me down over the stage of about a week, encouraged me to apply, in inverted commas, still went through the process. It was mine to lose. I could have still messed it up. Yeah. And was delighted to be offered the job. Yeah. And the more I got into the process, the more I thought, you know what, I can do this. I can absolutely do this. It totally made sense.
So it's interesting when you said that the female chair was the one who encouraged you to apply. Do you think that made a difference? Or do you think that even if it was a male chair, they would still see that potential?
No, I don't think it did make a difference, to be fair. And also from what I've been told, it was actually the then CEO who had kind of recommended me in the first place, who was a male. Yeah. So I think hopefully that doesn't actually make any difference. But in many ways, I think the relationship between myself and the chair works so well as two females together. Yeah. Now, my chair at the theatre, at Rose Hill Theatre, was a male, and I don't feel I deliberately did anything different in the way I behaved in that relationship. But I don't know, there's just something about the relationship I have now at the Harbour Commissioners with our chair that we just gel so well, and we totally get each other. And, I think that makes a massive difference to have that really strong relationship.
I think that's something that's, when we talk about mentors or role models or endorsements, it really matters, right? Yeah. Like if you can get that right, I think it's a catalyst to success.
Yeah, definitely.
But just thinking about joining the ports industry, we talk about diversity and making it inclusive. Why does that even matter in the ports industry?
I think in any industry, you have to have diverse voices. You have to. Somebody said to me very early on in my career about trying to surround yourself with different people. And they said something that still resonates today. And they said you could have 12 people in a meeting room, and if 12 of you all look and talk and behave the same, 11 of you are just completely wasting their time. And they're so right. Yeah. Will never change without diversity in any industry. Yeah. And I think the port sector particularly is making great strides. I mean, I'm only not even 2 years in, so I can't compare with 10, 15, 20 years ago. But what I see today is a lot of really great, exciting, positive conversations. Yeah. But there is still, when you attend events, you look around, there is still that breadth and that strength and that weight towards, to use the phrase, pale, male and stale. Yeah. And no disrespect to all those males who are absolutely rocking it in the sector. Absolutely. I'm not suggesting they're stale at all, but there is that kind of phrase that you just look at, you think, yeah, we've got to break that down.
You know, it's interesting you say that because my previous role at the Port of London, I did a lot of networking events, attending conferences, etc. It's not so much that I have a problem with men in the room. I was just very tired of it. So when you see a woman, you almost gravitate towards that woman, like, oh, there's women in the industry. Where have you been hiding? You know, so
Exactly.
It's a bit of a surprise when that happens. So I get quite happy and joyful about it, actually. But just thinking about that representation and you as a CEO, there's not many CEO females in the industry. Why do you think that is?
I think sometimes it's down to us not pushing ourselves forward for the opportunities as well. I mean, I'm a perfect example. Had I not been approached, I would never have gone for that job. Partly because I did not see the skills that I had that were transferable. And also because I just thought, no, I'm not the right fit. It's not the right job for me. I shouldn't be pushing myself forward in something that's just completely wacky and out there from what I could see. And the more I've done the job now, the more I've looked back and gone, yeah, absolutely, everything ticks the right boxes. Ultimately, ports are businesses. And you have to have the same business experience. You know, you've got to think of finance, you've got to look at legislation and compliance, it's leadership, it's change management, it's about problem solving, pivoting, communications, people skills. All of that I developed through journalism and then through running the theatre and some horrendously challenging times during the pandemic for arts and culture. So all of that has really shaped me into the role I'm in today. And so trying to encourage other people to really see that and put themselves forward. But it is funny when you talk to people, and particularly women in the sector, so many of us have fallen into it by accident, just by maybe a chance meeting with somebody, a chance conversation, or somebody recommending somebody else. So we've just recruited a chief operating officer. So it's a brand new role. And the board have been so supportive. But I went to them last year and said, look, we're trying to do a lot of work around developing the business, diversifying the organisation. You know, we're a trust port, we're a very small trust port, and we're really limited in what we can do. So any ways to diversify our income, generate income in a different way. But the more we try to do, the more we need people. And the board have been really supportive. And again, by chance, it's a female. And I didn't go out to get a female. We shortlisted and then we second interviewed 3 very strong candidates. 2 of them were female and 1 of them was male. And the one we settled on just ticked all the right boxes in terms of skills. But I'm not ashamed to say I am so excited that the fact that now when you will look at our organisation, it's a female chair, a female CEO. We're about to have a female chief operating officer, and running the marina side of the operations, Whitehaven Marina Limited, who are our tenants, they have a female marina manager. So you look at our little old harbour in little old West Cumbria, and I just think, making great strides in diversity, I think.
What do you think some of the biggest misconceptions are about the ports industry?
I don't know about misconceptions generally, because again, I probably haven't been around in it long enough to really compare. But I guess I would think of my own misconceptions and why I didn't see myself as being a natural fit. I think I thought it was full of men in boiler suits and PPE, just getting down and dirty. I think you don't realise the breadth of opportunities that are within the sector. It's still seen, people still look at it in a kind of a blinkered way, I think. And the more you're within it, the more you realise, wow, there are some incredible opportunities. You know, would somebody necessarily think about going into a finance role within a ports sector, going into marketing within the ports sector? It's not something that initially springs to mind. People talk about the ports industry and they're always thinking about ships. Oh, you know, I don't like water, I don't like sailing, I'm scared, I won't ever work in that industry. Well, why not? So I think that's a big misconception still to the wider audience. And the more we can break that down, the better. And where we are locally, there's a lot of engineering around where we are, particularly around nuclear decommissioning sites, Sellafield, some of the bigger industries around Cumbria as a whole, shipbuilding as well. So younger people these days are naturally going into engineering, but none of them are generally thinking that could transfer into ports in time, to try to get out there and encourage them to think about a role within our sector. I'd really love to get more people thinking that way.
So just thinking about the promotion side, do you guys do any work with schools, colleges, universities to promote Whitehaven?
Yes, we do. We try to do as much as we can, and we've just taken part in something called the Dream Placement Programme, which we have a really great organisation locally called the Centre for Leadership Performance, and they do a lot around supporting young people and development and leadership. And it's like a work experience programme, but we take people for a week and they do it in their own time. So they do it during their February half-term holidays. So it's not done as part of the school curriculum. These are young people who are really wanting to learn different experiences and grow themselves and put themselves out there and get extra ticks in their boxes and, a stronger CV. And it's a really great experience and the young people love it, but they have their eyes massively opened to what Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners are, what we do, and what experiences there are to be had within the sector itself. But also we learn from them at the same time. Being wonderful young people with amazing ideas and just, thinking back to when I was 17 or 18, I can just about remember that far back. That kind of innocence and that enthusiasm and still wanting to change the world and not having it knocked out of you. And it kind of, you go home at the end of a crazy week and then you think, oh no, I've got dream placement next week. And then you get to the end of the week, you think, wow, that reminds me every time why we do what we do. And, these are the future. This is the future generation, which is really, really exciting. And it's a great programme to be part of. And then, if we can take opportunities to go and talk to schools about career and again, explaining how I fell into it by accident. So one of the young people on the Dream Placement recently, she was really stressing about not having her kind of plan mapped already. Her friends were going to university. She wasn't sure whether she wanted to or not. And she spent time with me and I talked about my own career journey. And she realised at the end of the week, she said, I feel so much more relaxed. I'm not stressing about what I need to do anymore because she saw from me that I went to university for a year, didn't really like it, swallowed my pride and went home and then fell into journalism and then did all of that, then fell into the theatre by accident, then fell into the harbour by accident, not literally, thankfully. But, and I said to them, do you think I woke up at 17 and said, I want to run a harbour when I'm 50-something? 100% no. So I think that was really beneficial. If I've helped settle her nerves in some ways, then I'll take that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the thing, right? When you have, when you're 17, I sometimes think it's society pressure, go to school, go to university, get a job, X, Y, and Z. But there's different routes now, right? So you've got the apprenticeship route, you've got internship route. Is that something that your harbour endorses, or do you guys have some of those kind of apprenticeship routes going?
Yeah, so we've had apprenticeships. We are also looking at different courses and training schemes that we can put people onto as well. And I think that's one thing that it would be really good to maybe get more promotion from the sector itself, because I've had to delve a lot to see what courses are out there. There's the obvious ones that you know of fairly easily, the Harbour Master Certificates, the oil spill response, all of that. But then when you start looking at kind of personal development, management, leadership, it's not obvious. There doesn't seem to be a lot out there, and there may be. So we maybe need to look at the promotion of that and how we can support people and develop within. So what we do find locally is a a lot of people are attracted by the higher paid jobs within the engineering side, within the nuclear industry, within larger organisations. So it's hard to retain. So recruitment and retention is a big issue in West Cumbria, particularly in general.
Yeah.
So with the ports, it's about trying to support and look after our teams as much as possible. And that's both male and female.
Yeah.
So, it's about growing them. It's about development. And that's another of the reasons that we brought in this chief operating officer. It's about creating that succession plan, about the development opportunities, so that, people can really learn from somebody else as well. It creates another pathway to succession. And it just opens some different doors as well.
So when you came into this industry, was there something that maybe the industry could have done to make your transition a little bit easier?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it at the moment. You find that you're still having to delve and look for opportunities and support yourself.
Yeah.
So maybe something that's a little bit more out there, a little bit more obvious, and somebody coming in like I did, cold, really. There was no Bible. There was no real kind of idiot's guide that was handed to me on day one.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do. So one thing I really wish I'd done differently before I started was read a heck of a lot more. So I went in having read the Port Marine Safety Code and I thought it's fine. I know it all. That's exactly what I need to follow. And it is, don't get me wrong, it absolutely is. But, when I started looking at the Acts of Parliament and all our Harbour revision orders, and that just kept me going for day after day after day.
Still is.
Still is. And there's still things I'm finding that I still don't know. So there's all of that. But then it's just around the compliance and legislation. And I think there's a huge amount within the ports industry that people don't realise until they're within it, of all of that. And just some kind of idiot's guide to be handed to me would have been amazing. Or some kind of course, how to be the CEO of a harbour would be great.
I think we're an industry which loves acronyms.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah,
I can really relate to this. We just love an acronym.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think people even know what they mean half the time.
No.
So I don't think you're alone in this. It's so frustrating at times, right? And sometimes you just need the little dictionary, the Ports dictionary.
That glossary of terms. Well, if it makes you feel any better, obviously I'm surrounded by a lot of people within the nuclear industry where we are, and they're apparently just as bad.
So, it's something which I think we can make it easier. But I also think the more we get non-industry joining the industry, I think that's when it's going to really change, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got to get that right balance. We've got to make ourselves more accessible, raise awareness of what a great sector we are, but also support those that are already within it to develop, to work their way up. What I don't want is somebody joining us as an apprentice at the age of 18 or whatever, doing that 2-year apprenticeship and then going on elsewhere because they don't like it or because there aren't the opportunities.
Yeah.
Both of those are easily solvable, but we've got to change that from within. Yeah. And that's the important thing. And I think with the right attitude within your teams, the right team, and then also the right kind of formal routes, the formal pathways, that can make a massive difference. And then the support network. Yeah. So one thing that really struck me when I got within the sector, which I didn't appreciate at all, is what an amazing family the ports industry is. And it was, the first BPA event where we met. I was literally a few months into post and I was landing going, I am so rabbit in the headlights here. I have no clue what I'm doing. Sat through all these presentations of people talking about things. I, again, had no clue what they were talking about. I was spent most of that first evening on Google looking things up that people were referring to. But wow, everybody has been so welcoming and so supportive. I've had visits to larger ports. I've had visits to smaller ports. Nobody thinks twice about me picking up the phone and calling them and asking for help. They absolutely will help and answer questions. And, size does not matter in the ports industry.
This is true.
We all just help each other. Yeah. And I've gone to larger ports and been very open about learning from them. But then they've also turned around to me and said, but we're learning from you as well, because you're giving us different experiences.
Yeah. That's something I do think it's very special about this ports industry. But it's like you said, if you're not part of it, you don't know that. Yeah. And you don't get access to that goodness, right?
Yeah.
Just thinking about from a gender point of view and being a female CEO, do you sometimes feel that's a bit of either a burden or a big responsibility? Or do you feel that maybe when people label you as a female CEO, that it can be a little bit frustrating because you want to just be known as a CEO? So I kind of want to understand your viewpoints on that. Because I think some women don't want to be known as the first female.
Yeah, don't want to be labelled
as a female. Yeah. Even as some women will be like, well, actually, I don't want to be part of women in ports. I just want to be ports, right?
Yeah.
What's your view on that?
Yeah. Well, it must be something about the roles I take because, it's... I don't tend to think about it like that, but then you do very quickly realise that people are looking at you like that, but you are being held as a role model for others.
Yeah.
So, there is a responsibility, there's a recognition of that, but I don't start out to recognise that. But if I can show to others that are maybe looking and thinking, could I do that job? If I can show to them, then yes, you absolutely can. Then, I'll accept that responsibility. Yeah. No problem at all. But there is still an element of feeling like we have to be labelled. And I guess that's maybe a reflection of that we're not quite where we need to be in society, that it does still seem to matter.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't matter. And I would hope that I have had all of my jobs because I've been the right person for the job, not because I've been a female. That, people have recognised transferable skills. I think that's ultimately what's important, regardless of gender. Yeah. You've got to have the right person in the right job and the right person for the team as well. And that's the most important thing.
So when we talk about mentors and role models, and obviously you will be seen as a role model to many, whether you want to or not. Yeah. I mean, it's just natural. Yeah. Did you ever have a role model?
I've had quite a lot of role models over the years. I've been quite lucky, and I think some of them without even realising it. And actually, in some ways, I've learned from people that I haven't necessarily agreed with either, because you learn from people the best ways to do things, but you also learn people the ways not to do things.
Yeah.
But I honestly think we're all learning from everybody every day.
Yeah.
I take notice of how people behave and react in a lot of different jobs, because I think all of that helps you shape how you are and what you are and how you treat people and how you communicate with people and the job that you do. But I still think there is some bias towards females in more senior roles and that unconscious bias. And, some of the conversations that I've had with people where they've made references that you just think, would you have actually said that to a man in a similar role?
Yeah.
One example, so not long after I'd started, I had to go and talk to, I was asked to go and talk to a group of people over 50 who were job seekers and really talk to them about why they are still valuable to society. I mean, I'm an over 50s person, and so I totally feel I'm still got value to society. So 100% I could speak from the heart. And so I was talking to them, and there was a chap there, and he was significantly older than 50, but I won't try and say what, because I probably got it wrong. Yeah. But he came over to me after I talked about my career journey and about the job I'm doing now. And he said, wow, that's amazing what you've just talked about, but gosh, what a big job for such a young lass. And I kind of checked myself and I just thought, wow, okay. Yeah. I was also slightly flattered because as a 50-something woman to be called a young lass, it was quite nice, but then I looked back on it and I thought, you know what? I didn't challenge him. I didn't come back at him. I just kind of smiled and giggled and went, oh, thanks very much. I'm 50-something, so I'll take that. And I just walked away and I thought, right, Deanne, you have really just not helped break down those barriers. You've just let him get away with what he's just said.
But do you think, because we've had this conversation before about other incidents, do you think sometimes they just are so unaware that what they're saying?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, completely.
It's not even so much that they're going in there with the intention, right?
No.
And I don't know which one's worse.
yeah.
I think I told you about the comment when I met a gentleman who said to me, "I don't have the full female experience because I don't have children." And I'm like, what?
I know, exactly.
But again, it was.
But he couldn't see it, exactly. It just came out of his mouth naturally, as far as he was aware. It's a difficult one. I don't know. And the number of times I still get referred to by people either on the phone or in person as darling, as love.
Yeah.
All these kind of terms that you think, young lady. I was called by somebody from a supplier recently, called young lady on the phone. Again, okay, I should be flattered, I guess, but...
but it's that though, right? Because for me, I always say, I don't think I would have an issue with that if you put the same standard to a male CEO.
Yeah. Would they call him old man if they rang a CEO who was 70-something and male?
Would you call him young man or whatever? But you wouldn't hear that, would you? And it's almost like a sense of respect that they give them.
Yeah. I also think, in some ways, they're thinking about it, we maybe put some of it on ourselves at times. And I've always been true to myself. I've always been the person I just feel I want to be, the best version of myself, and not for anybody other than me. But I still find I will still check myself sometimes, depending on a meeting that I'm going to. Who am I going to see? What am I going to do? And how is it going to influence how I dress? Now, obviously, I was down in the sea lock the other day. We've got routine annual maintenance going on, and I was going down in the sea lock. So, of course, I'm going to wear trousers and boots and all the rest of it. It's got to be sensible. But for something like, I'm a typical female. I like dressing up. I like smart. I like feeling good about myself. I don't do it for anybody other than myself. I like wearing makeup. But if I'm going for a meeting with a whole lot of fishermen, am I going to think twice about wearing a dress with high heels and all the rest of it? Yes, I probably am. I'm probably going to wear trousers and boots and look a bit more what I would think a fisherman would expect me to be seen as. But that's my perception. That's not them. So that's on me, not them.
Yeah. It's interesting when we talk about the perception side of things. And when we're talking about being authentic to who we are. Now, when we say, we want to be true to ourselves, we want to be authentic, what do you say to those women who are, and to the women who basically say, well, actually, I don't want no pink PPE. I don't want to have this. I want to just have exactly what the men have, because I'm a bit similar to you. I actually do want some pink PPE. If it's available, I'll take it. But what do you say to those women who are very much, well, actually, we don't want to embrace the feminine side, and actually, we should just conform to maybe what the masculine norms are?
I think at the end of the day, you've just got to be whatever you want to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
There are, and let's be fair, there are men out there who would much rather dress in a more female way. Yeah. And there are females out there who would much rather dress in a more masculine way. Yeah. So ultimately, as an industry and as a world in general, we have to have everything out there to support what people want to be and the way they want to be.
Absolutely. And just finally, just thinking about maybe some of your challenges. Do you think you've been challenged, in regards to your leadership as a CEO, coming into the ports world, maybe as a female? Do you think there was any challenges because of that, or when you've gone out to industry and not maybe being noticed?
I think I've been quite lucky so far. And again, I'm only 2 years in and I've probably not been fully exposed to everything yet. But I haven't been aware of a huge amount of challenges that have hit me personally. Apart from there was one incident where, and it was actually at a ports event where, we were all kind of crammed in a lift together and we're just chatting away as you all do. And then somebody had asked where I was from, and I said I'm representing Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners, and they asked what my role was, and I said CEO, and they actually went, oh. And there was that moment of surprise, and I just thought, why?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Here of all places?
Yeah.
So that was very disappointing.
Yeah.
And that just made me more determined to kind of, just keep pushing myself out there, pushing myself forward.
Yeah.
Being seen to be a female CEO of a small trust port in little old West Cumbria.
Yeah.
And, it's why I make the effort to try to get to all the events I can, no matter how far away. Because the more we can get involved, the better, and raise awareness of us, but also me to learn from others.
Yeah.
And that one person, again, I'm sure they didn't mean it at all, but maybe it was my perception of how they said it.
Yeah.
Again, some of it is just down to your own perceptions of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But it just shows that we're maybe still not quite there yet.
I think actually, if someone makes that comment, it clearly shows that we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And actually, it's about having more of these conversations.
Yeah.
And to promote that female leadership.
Yeah.
That we won't get to that point when people are surprised, right? Just thinking about the ports, what would you like ports to do better to come collectively, whether it's support networks, whether it's policies? What is it that we can do as an industry to make it more inclusive for all, not just gender, but all types of diversity?
Yeah. I think it's all of the above. It's everything you've said. So it's about support networks. It's about the policies. It's about the training schemes. It's about raising awareness. It's about looking at if there are opportunities already to get more diversity within the sector, and there are people like myself who are not getting involved or didn't get involved until directly approached because I wasn't aware of the opportunities. We need to be looking at how those are promoted.
Yeah.
So we're a great organisation ourselves for doing what we do well and supporting the team within, but we're not very good at kind of blowing our own trumpet about what we do well. Yeah. And if we're not doing that, then probably others like us are not doing that. And we do all need to maybe just step up and be a little bit prouder every now and again of what we're doing. There are other industries that are really championing what they do. So, the strides I've seen in the short space of time that I've been involved in the industry have been huge from what I can see. Yeah. And if that's that much development in 2 years, then how much development has there been in the last 10 years, potentially? But they need to be shouting a lot more about it.
I mean, it's interesting you say that because actually ports run our economy. During COVID, goods still needed to come into the country. And how did they come into the country?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's so much of that's taken for granted. Yeah. And I myself, even though I was a water sports enthusiast, I love sailing, I absolutely 100% adored the sea from the age of, tiny. Yeah. But I never thought about how important, how central ports are to just our day-to-day lives.
Absolutely. And just thinking about future generation and aspiring leaders, what advice would you give to them who would like to join the ports industry?
Just push yourself forward. So, there is nothing to be lost by going for an opportunity. I think I wouldn't ever say to anybody, you'll regret having a go at something. I think you would regret not having a go at something. Yeah. And I'd think, even if you have a go at something and it's not right for you, ultimately, you still learn from that. Yeah. But I think if you never push yourself forward and that moment has always gone, you'll always be left wondering what if. Yeah. And I think, it's important to accept that you will make mistakes. We all make mistakes. So own those mistakes and learn from them. Yeah. I'm a big supporter of that in what we do as a team. So, we're not robots. We're all humans. Yeah. So you have to support people to develop the way they want to develop.
Yeah.
And as long as nobody dies, which, which unfortunately that can be possible with imports. So, there is that serious element as well. Yeah. But generally most mistakes can be experienced and learned from.
Yeah.
So I think 100% if you've got a kernel of interest in anything there, then push yourself forward and go for it.
And finally, in 3 words, what should women in ports be?
So I think absolutely should be accessible. Yeah. I think it needs to not have barriers for participation and inclusion and involvement. I think that's a really important thing to me. I think it needs to be informed. It should be informed. So it's about listening to the voices of those involved and then shaping itself in response to what's coming out that our needs.
Yeah.
And I think voice.
Yeah.
So technically a voice is 2 words, but, voice. So it's about, being that champion for women and standing up for us and speaking up for us when that kind of strength, that strong representation is needed.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been really, really interesting and lots of fun. So thank you for joining me today, Deanne.
Thank you.
And now we'll leave you for the rest of your weekend to enjoy your country music festival that you're here for.
Oh no, now you've told everybody.
Deanne is also a massive singer as well, if anybody wants to check her out. And so welcome. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.